All the way back in 2013, I had just been hired as the IT director for an oil and gas company. I was the third employee, sat down, interviewed with the CFO and the CEO of the company, and had shared with them all of my experience in mergers and acquisitions and integrations. I'd done about 32 or 3 or so at that point in my career. Had been through an IPO. These were all things that the company had plans to do, and so I was just a really good fit. And hearing about my background in leading teams, I had led up to about 23 people on an IT team and then done IT consulting work. All of these things that I had done, I was the perfect fit for the IT director to be able to lead this company from a technology perspective through all of the things that they had planned on doing over the next decade. But there was a problem. I really only knew the technology. I was not the leader that I had portrayed. I thought I was, but whenever I stepped in and started to truly wrap my arms around what it meant to lead as an executive in technology, things changed. This is when I first started to come across online and influencers and people that had written books and things like that. And the person that came to mind for me that started to resonate was Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, he is more prominent in the entrepreneurship circles around hustle culture and grind and do so much work and on and on and on. But there were a few key lessons that he spoke on during this season of my life that resonated with me beyond belief. That is what I want to get into today. Because we have to understand that the leap from being the best engineer, the fastest individual contributor into leadership, it is more challenging than you realize. Your old identity is actually working against you once you step into this realm. It's no longer about you being the strongest force on the team. It's about you becoming a force multiplier. The first thing that I want to get into is hard work. But we have to understand that it's a different type of hard work. It's no longer about your output. It is focusing on the harder and less visible work. That is developing the people on your team, building accountability within your team and outside of your team, building relationships with people, and sitting with uncomfortable conversations. The things that you were doing aren't going to work anymore. You have to actually stop doing some of that and start being intentional about how do you develop these communication skills. That in and of itself is the hard work. It's no longer, and I can't stress this enough, about how many systems you can design, how many projects you can move forward. The hard work and the nature of it actually shifts into having to work on yourself, having to learn how to step outside of your comfort zone, knowing that it's going to be better for you, for the team, and for the organization. So you have to understand that you are going to work hard, but you're going to be working a different type of hard, if that makes sense. The second thing that I want to touch on is kindness. I have to stress, kindness is not weakness. It is a leadership lever. And the more you lean into it, the more you will start to understand how impactful this can actually be for you. Because when you start having uncomfortable conversations, when you start having to actually hold people accountable, if you are not doing it from a place of kindness, it starts to get pretty tough. You have to have a genuine investment in the people in your team. And this is something that up to this point in my career, I simply didn't. I viewed all of the people on my team before as just cogs in a machine. They had individual skills. I would deploy them when was needed. But that is leadership philosophy really just gets you so far. Yes, you can build systems around it, but you don't have the opportunity to tap into discretionary effort. When these people feel that you truly care, that is when the big unlock actually occurs. When you approach conversations through a lens of kindness and when you actually care, it allows you to be direct without it just showing up as aggression. We've all heard horror stories of toxic bosses that were frustrating and would drive people away from the organization. And their response is, oh, I'm just being direct. Yes, and look what happened. You can be direct, but when you come at it from a place of kindness and you genuinely care, they are going to be more open and receptive to listening. This is the segue into the next and final talking point, which is candor. This is the thing that most leaders avoid. When directors and vice presidents and even C-level executives start to go quiet, they're afraid of having the uncomfortable conversation, which always confused me. The more I ascended in the leadership ranks, I always operated from this place of, oh, well, they're the smartest in the room. Oh, they're the strongest leaders. Oh, they should feel comfortable having uncomfortable conversations because that's what you have to do as a senior leader. The reality is very different. Most leaders are afraid of having uncomfortable conversations. Not because they don't want to, it's actually because they don't know how to. And this is why kindness is so important, because when you have a direct conversation with somebody and it comes from a place of kindness, the dynamic shifts. It makes it so much easier for you to actually have the hard conversations when it's, Jason, I've been getting some feedback from people in the business and I'm really worried about you. I'm wondering, how are you feeling about this? Are you aware of this dynamic that exists? How can I best support you through this? That is a very different conversation from, Jason, man, you are really screwing stuff up. I need you to get your act together. See the difference? It's incredibly powerful when you blend kindness with candor, and how that can, quite frankly, change the entire leadership dynamic. And it allows the people on your team to know that you genuinely care, that you want them to be successful. And I believe that learning these skills early on in my leadership journey were foundational. They are such a core piece of who I am today as an executive, as a leader, and all the other skills that I was able to learn over the last 13 years since around this season of my life. They have all stacked on top of these foundational skills. They have all compounded on top of all of these skills. I know that a lot of people kind of grapple with this and think kindness is weakness, and they're afraid to have these conversations. Can you achieve results not having these as your foundation? Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm sure you can, but all of the leaders that I've seen do this, they're usually in short sprints or cycles, which if you're in a publicly traded company, maybe that works out well for you. But I choose to be different. I'm playing the long game here. My focus is building as many leaders as I possibly can so that they can build as many leaders as they possibly can. One of the things that I haven't really touched on is external pressures. When you have a board, when you are publicly traded, when you have investors, there is a tremendous amount of pressure that they are all exerting on the senior leadership of any organization. Most of the employees will never see, feel, or experience any of that pressure. Some of it bleeds down through, but the reality is there's just pressures that these C-level executives experience that most simply won't. how do we reconcile the fact that we need to achieve these results, but Sean is telling me this is a long game that we have to play? It's not easy. But also understand that there are times when you have built trust and respect and leaned into all the things that I was just talking about, when you need to push your team just a little bit more, just a little bit harder. They are going to be open and amenable, and they're probably going to go above and beyond to help you achieve that next goal or that next target. So this is kind of an accordion effect here, where you have to lean in and apply pressure, but as soon as you get over that hump, you have to take a breath. You have to let the team take a little bit of a breath. And what happens is you rebuild that trust, you rebuild the relationships, and then you have another sprint. You have another push. Operating at these levels is not something that's easily done. It's very difficult. It's very challenging. And that's why the hard work that I was talking about in the beginning, you have to understand the hard work is no longer about the work that you're doing. The hard work is the work that has to be done on yourself. That is the most challenging thing that you should be focused on tackling. Because at the end of the day, the impact that you have on the people around you, that is what they are going to remember. How you made them feel, that is what they are going to remember. The real change, it's not about the title. This is about your identity. It is about the person that you have to become to operate at these levels. Stop thinking you can brute force your way through by doing more of the same. I want to leave all of you with this. It is a question. Of all of these things that I've been talking about today, which of these are you quietly deprioritizing right now? And what do you think it's costing your team?